this is what I wanted to ask you. What was it like when you actually got in? Because nobody really can prepare you for that. When you're running for president, you don't really know what it's going to be like when you actually get into office. What did you think it was going to be like?
In office or when I decided to run?
So when you got in.
When I was in. So when I was in and won and was in the White House, essentially. Yes. Well, first of all, it was very surreal.
Okay.
It's very interesting. When I got shot, it wasn't surreal. That should have been surreal. When I was laying on the ground, I knew exactly what was going on. I knew exactly what was going on. Looking, and I just looked around. I said, "Do you believe this?" Because I was never first of all, even if you were a politician, I was never a politician. I sort of just started, right? And all of a sudden, I'm standing in the White House, and it was very, very surreal. That room was so beautiful to me, much more beautiful than it actually is. To me, when I looked at the bed, and the bed you could see was a little bit longer. Well, I went into debates with 18 people, including me, and then slowly but surely they started to disappear. We had debates, good debates.
Everyone's aware of all this stuff, but what I want to get to is what was the experience once you got inside?
It was just
what did you think it was going to be like in terms of your ability to govern?
Yeah.
This is your first experience governing anything. You've never been a governor. You've never been a mayor.
Private stuff.
Business.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden you're inside the White House.
The biggest thing was just that first moment of being in this hallowed. It was really a hallowed place to me. It was
surreal.
It was beyond.
What did you expect though in terms of once you got inside, you had to appoint all these people? How many appointments did you have to make?
Well, you have actually 10,000 appointments. Now they're different. You have big ones, and then they appoint 100 people and 200 people. But the president really is involved with approximately 10,000 appointments. So you'll appoint a Secretary of State, and he or she will appoint a lot of people. So it's a lot. But in terms of major ones, you probably have 100, but they're big ones. Treasury, state, military.
And how did you know who to appoint?
Well, I didn't. I had no experience. You have to understand, Joe. I wasn't a Washington guy. I was a New York guy. I was a New York builder, and I built buildings in New York, and I knew that whole world, but I didn't know the Washington world too well. And all of a sudden, you're supposed to be appointing top people. So it was really somebody that not only was new to Washington, but was new to politics. So in the office of the presidency, over the years, all those presidents, you've had 92% were politicians and 8% were generals. General Eisenhower, General Washington, right? General George Washington. You had generals. So it's 8% no admirals, 8% generals, and 92% politicians. They're politicians and they go on. So they never had a business guy, or they never had a guy that wasn't elected to an office. They were all like Ronald Reagan he was a movie actor, but he became the governor of California for, I think, 2 terms, and then he ran. So you'd never had a thing like this. But in terms of me, and sometimes I'd use it as an excuse, and I don't like having excuses actually, but I'd use it as an excuse. I had to rely on people that I respected or liked, but that I didn't know that well because I didn't know them that well. Some of those people I campaigned against because, when you have 18 people, we had mostly politicians running in the election, running in the primaries. And they got knocked out one by one, but I got to like some of them. Some of them I didn't like at all, and I don't like them now. And I'd rely on them, and I'd rely on other people. So all of a sudden, people would come in, I'd like to recommend so-and-so to be Secretary of State, and I'd have 3, 4 people recommend. One thing I can tell you, everybody wants the position.
Of course.
No, but sometimes I'll hear, a lot of people don't want to work with Trump because Trump is tough to work with, et cetera. Let me tell you. Everybody wants to be any one of these positions. They die for it.
Of course.
Now, they don't want to be known. I mean, there's a particular guy in New York, primarily, very big, very successful, very strong, very political, although he's not a politician. He'd give anything to be Secretary of State. But if they ask him, no, I don't think I would do it. But in the meantime, begging for it, begging. I
believe you.
Everybody wants it.
But what I wanted to get to...
By the way, no matter what you do, but it's very dangerous to pick somebody outside of a politician because a politician's been basically vetted for years.
Right.
You pick a business guy, and they've never been vetted at all, and they're, the head of a big company or something, but they've never been vetted. You know nothing about his personal life. You know nothing about where he's been. When you put him in, it's a little bit dangerous because all of a sudden they get checked up and you hear things that you're saying, wow, this is not going to work out too well. So it's very dangerous. Picking people that are outside of politics is somewhat dangerous.
So you're
In its most recent tax filing, the Donald J. Trump Foundation said that in 2015, it transferred income or assets to a disqualified person, and that it also did so in previous years. Translation, the foundation gave money to someone it shouldn't have.
I give a lot of money to people and charities and everything.
He asked me to pay off an adult film star with whom he had an affair. And I'm giving the committee today a copy of the $130,000 wire transfer from me to Ms. Clifford's attorney during the closing days of the presidential campaign. Mr. Trump directed me to use my own personal funds from a home equity line of credit to avoid any money being traced back to him that could negatively impact his campaign. I am providing a copy of a $35,000 check that President Trump personally signed from his personal bank account on August 1st of 2017, when he was president of the United States, pursuant to the cover-up, which was the basis of my guilty plea, to reimburse me the word used by Mr. Trump's TV lawyer for the illegal hush money I paid on his behalf.
14,000 apartments in 39 different buildings, all mostly white tenants. That is until the Department of Justice took notice in 1973 and slammed Donald Trump and his father Fred Trump with a lawsuit. Trump management was charged with discriminating against African Americans and breaking federal law. 2 years later, in 1975, Trump and his father settled the case, agreeing not to discriminate against anyone.
However, I can tell you we saw each other a minimum 5 times a month, up to bigger numbers per month. So
over the course of how long?
Over the course of 2006 through, I think I ended the relationship April 2007. So we were together 10 months before I chose to end it. So we saw each other quite frequently.
So dozens of times you were together.
Many dozens of times,
And you were intimate.
Yes.
Many dozens of times.
The president-elect agreed to settle a series of lawsuits targeting Trump University, his defunct program for aspiring real estate moguls. The controversy followed Mr. Trump along the campaign trail, and the federal trial was about to begin. Instead, he'll pay $25 million.
A resounding win for E. Jean Caroll. A federal jury finding former President Trump sexually abused her and then defamed her by calling her story a lie, awarding her $5 million.
You apparently saw things with some clarity,
Yes.
at least as far as the Taj Mahal was concerned, and yet when you spoke out on that, you got canned.
Donald Trump was so upset with Rothman's grim prediction for the Taj Mahal that he is said to have called up his boss and said either make Rothman apologize publicly or fire him. Rothman went on to sue his employer for wrongful termination, and a judge found in Rothman's favor, awarding him $750,000.
Big blow for former President Donald Trump. Today, a New York judge ordered him to pay more than $350 million as part of a civil fraud lawsuit.
The judge there says he exaggerated how much his properties were worth to get favorable bank loans and insurance rates.
One example cited in court, the Trump Tower triplex. Records show it was nearly 11,000 square feet. But documents that Trump filed stated it being nearly triple the size, 30,000 square feet. Trump is now banned from conducting business in New York for 3 years. Trump had tried to make the case that real estate value was subjective, but the judge stating that when appraisals are so different, it's not evidence of a difference of opinion. That is evidence of deceit.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is.
So you're in there. You have 10,000 appointments you have to make. So you're getting advice from people. And at one point in time, did you have a moment in time where you realized, these are bad choices? Like, some of these people I shouldn't have had in there.
Oh, yeah. I will say that it always comes back to the same answer. The biggest mistake I made was I picked some people. I picked some great people, but you don't think about that. I picked some people that I shouldn't have picked. I picked a few people that I shouldn't have picked. So I always got more publicity than other people, and it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe.
You said a lot of wild shit, and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild shit, made you much more popular.
Yeah.
and they boosted you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking in this bullshit, pre-prepared politician lingo. And even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him. That's really him. Yeah. When you see certain people talk, certain people in the public eye, you don't know who they are. You have no idea who they are. It's very difficult to know. You see them in conversations. They have these pre-planned answers. They say everything. It's very rehearsed. You never get to the meat of it. One of the beautiful things about you is that you freeball. Like, you get out and you do these huge events and you're just talking.